Hi, and welcome to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn, and I am joined yet again by my lovely wife, Margaret Quinn.
Hello, everyone.
We have one of these kind of beers with a story here today.
Yeah, this beer has quite a story.
Yeah.
And you know,
certainly as much of a story as we've ever had. So, more history to this beer than any beer we've ever had before.
That's very true.
Yeah. So pretty exciting to be able to try this beer. Certainly a beer that you and I have never tried. The beer is called Fegley's Brewworks Arctic Alchemy.
Right.
Basically it's an old ale that it's a reinterpretation or a recreation of a really old ale brewed by Allsopps, right? That's kind of the overview of it.
And Allsopp is a historical brewer from the UK, correct?
Yeah, from Burton-on-Trent. Right. So basically one of the most famous Burton breweries, and Burton-on-Trent being the most famous brewing city in England, really for quite a while before, Pilsen came along, the most famous brewing city in the world. Mm-hmm. That is where the birth of Pale Ale came from, but also old ales and barley wines and stuff like that were very much known for that area. Thank you, Max.
Yeah.
And we did a show on old ale before. We had old ale on before. It was Curmudgeon's Better Half.
Yep.
And you might want to check that out a little bit. I kind of talk about the history of the style. Very, very closely related to a barley wine. And in fact, today, they're pretty much interchangeable. Mm-hmm. Beer historians have gone back and tried to decipher the difference between the two.
Wow.
Generally, they tend to be darker and sweeter, old ales, compared to barley wines, which can be quite dry, mm-hmm. and an American version is very hoppy. Mm-hmm. So Allsopp used to make a version of their ale for the Baltic areas, just like these Baltic porters, Russian imperial stouts, same thing. They like their beers much stronger and kind of heartier up there. So when it became popular, but then they really stopped exporting there, mainly because those breweries started doing it themselves. Mm-hmm. The breweries, those regions started to brew their own beer.
Sure.
So it kind of went away, but then this style of beer kind of came back a little bit. It was called their Arctic Ale, and they revived it when people from the UK started sending out expeditions to go to the North Pole. Mm-hmm. They started rebrewing the Arctic Ale and sending it with them. Obviously, it was it could last a long time. The high alcohol let it last a long time. It also stayed off freezing for a certain amount of time. Obviously, sure. It eventually would freeze in the Arctic Circle, and it was very big and sweet and had a lot of nourishment. And almost the most important is, according to the captains, it helped stave off scurvy. Right. Which is why a lot of these expeditions would turn back, because the people were dying of scurvy. Yeah. So it was cool. Like, it wasn't a regular brew. It would be like there were certain batches of it. There was an 1854 batch, an 1875 batch. Like, whenever there were expeditions sent out to the North Pole.
That's funny.
Yeah. So basically, there was a guy who saw a bottle of this stuff on eBay and became obsessed with it. A home brewer. Really started researching everything about this beer and decided he wanted to kind of recreate it. He wanted to actually, I think, rebrew the beer and then take it on an Arctic expedition.
Wow.
He's got a whole website about it. It's called Arctic Alchemy.
Okay. Same as the beer? Yep.
Yeah. And that original beer had almost this exact same logo to it. In fact, okay. I'll put up on the screen what the original bottle looked like.
Cool.
Because then he found a brewery from Pennsylvania. I believe the guy's from Pennsylvania. And he got the original recipe, and they tried to brew that original beer that went out to the Arctic Circle, mm-hmm. or tried to anyway. I think it got turned back, and they sent multiple ships. I think they abandoned 4 of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the ships, I think, an American whaler, the one that I guess was they attempted to salvage, an American whaler found it and actually dragged it back, or towed it back to the UK.
Years later.
Years later, exactly.
So it had been stranded in the ice.
Yes.
And they found this thing when the ice, I guess, started to thaw. A huge boat just abandoned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they towed it back, and the Americans then restored it and gave it to the English.
Right. And there's also another interesting little factoid about the ship itself. The English were so appreciative of this act of generosity that the Americans did for towing back their boat, that the Queen of England actually sent a package to the American president at the time. I think it might have been Coolidge. Sent a package to the American president, and it turned out it was a huge desk, like a credenza, that was made out of planks from the salvaged ship. So it's just really interesting. And in fact, that desk, that credenza, is still in the Oval Office to this day.
Stop it, Max.
Max is very excited about this story.
He's British.
Yeah, he is. He's English. So very interesting kind of fact about U.S. history, world history in general.
I'm gonna get this out. Yeah, it's I don't know if you guys heard that over the growling and stuff, but yeah, the president's desk in the Oval Office is that desk made from planks of the ship. Mm-hmm. There was also, they found several of the original batch, like several crates of the beer still on there. They brought it back. You can still find some of that beer, which is one of the eBay beers that they found.
Wow. Now
and
that's a whale beer.
They drank it, and it's still, I mean, people have drank these beers that were brewed for the 1854 expedition, the 1875 expedition, and they're just known, these old ales in general, like barleywines, are known for just having amazing longevity. We're going to have to talk more as I try to get this cork out. This is as hard a cork as I can
My husband's very strong, so I'm sure he'll...
Would you like to?
No.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Fegley's Brew Works. Fegley's Brew Works has it looks like two locations, one in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and one in Allentown, Pennsylvania. They started back in 1998 in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and sort of an interesting story with the Fegley family. They started this brewery and brew pub back when Bethlehem, Pennsylvania was sort of kind of crumbling and just. It lost its industry, basically. Bethlehem
Steel town.
Exactly. Bethlehem Steel was an industrial giant in that town, and the steel mill was closing down, and the city was really, just having a hard time. Downtown was sort of clearing out, and the Fegley family opened this brew pub right downtown. So they really are
kind of made a statement, I guess.
Yeah, they made a statement and are very much dedicated to revitalizing the downtown areas. They did the same in Allentown when they opened there several years later. They expanded there. Again, just sort of revitalizing downtown areas.
This was made in the Allentown facility.
Okay.
And yeah, so this was made with the guy who researched and went up to the Arctic. They formulated the recipe based off of the original one that they had received. And I don't know if you noticed how thick and syrupy it looked pouring in. A beautiful kind of clear copper color to it. Like kind of a black and red look, very much like an old aged tawny port or an old sherry or something like that.
It definitely looks like that.
12% alcohol, very big beer. The head dissipates very, very quickly, as is pretty typical of a beer of such high strength.
Yeah.
So, man, those bugs are loud.
Yeah, we have some serious cicadas right now in Chicago. So I get a lot of almond in this. Are you getting that? I mean, not a lot, maybe strong.
Yeah, I wonder if this beer is barrel aged. You almost are getting kind of a woody character from it. My guess is it's not barrel aged, although the original most certainly would have been, so maybe it is. Who knows?
Gosh, it almost reminds me of like cinnamon toast or something like that. It's very odd. I'm gonna have to keep sniffing this to say exactly. Yeah,
it very kind of brings to mind Christmassy spices. It's got a lot of kind of sweet, syrupy, raisin as well.
Yeah, and you can smell the booze in it. I mean, you kind of get that, you know, it's almost like a cooling sensation when you breathe this beer in, and obviously that's the booze come into play.
Yeah, like cinnamon apples, apple pie, like but heavily spiced apple pie, and yeah, like a creamy, not creamy, just like a nuttiness to it. Almond, I think, is good. A lot going on here.
Yeah.
Caramel and toffee and yeah, really nice. So, first two things that went through my mind when I took a sip.
Okay.
The first, this is a good beer.
Yeah.
The second, oh my God, how the heck are the two of us going to finish this whole bottle? Because, I mean, this is going to be plenty for us, and we're up down to here.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be an interesting night in the Quinn household tonight. But yeah, I think this beer is delicious. It's really complex. It's got a lot of that, you know, that caramel note, and you know, you said port, and that's exactly what it reminds me of. I mean, it's a sipper, but it really is a complex beer that just has a lot of nice things going on.
Yeah. This is a beer that I would very much look forward to sitting by a fireplace and drinking, maybe with a good book or something like that. It's wonderful. It's, for as big as it is, it's very clean. There's really nothing, you know, the alcohol hasn't kind of tainted it at all. It's got a nice kind of booziness to it, but in a very refined. I've got something like right on my face.
Unibrow. Just.
That's what that is.
I don't want to tell him, but. And it's almost got like a Venice quality to me. You know, it's like dark, you know, grapes and just. I don't know. I'm having a hard time putting it into words.
Yeah, like you know, booze-soaked raisins. Yeah. Like a rum raisin thing. It's very soft. It's not carbonated much at all.
Right.
There is a big degree of sweetness to it, but there's enough bitterness to balance it out. You don't really get a lot of bitterness in here, but I assure you that this was hopped pretty heavily. Absolutely no hop flavor or aroma, but you know, a beer this kind of chewy would just be a mess without a lot of bitterness to it. And I'm
kind of going back to your comment about, you know, is it barrel aged, because I am also getting some wood character, you know, some and I literally mean that, like wood, you know, like I get like a woody flavor out of this as well.
Yeah, I get a woody too.
Wanky.
No, it's. I think you're right. I mean, my guess is that this beer is barrel aged. Yeah, it does have definitely a really nice wood flavor to it. Not necessarily that same kind of, no coconut or anything.
No.
But just a nice kind of oakiness to it. A really, really well put together beer. I agree. The fact that it was from a really old recipe is pretty amazing. Yeah. It's really held up awesome. You know, these guys at Fegley's and the gentleman Chris Bowen, who researched it and came up with the recipe, did an awesome job. I mean, this beer is phenomenally good. Yeah, it's very good. So as far as ratings, I mean, I have to go pretty high. I'll say like 94 with this. Yeah. I'll go 94 as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm really pleasantly surprised with Fegley's. I mean, I don't know much about them, but I'm very interested to have a lot more of their beers at this point, because this is a good one. Yeah, it's definitely a good beer. If you guys are in the neighborhood, ever up by Bethlehem or Allentown, yeah, stop by and pick it up. I think it's also available in the greater Philadelphia, kind of mid-Atlantic region, so definitely one to look for. Really cool story about this. Just amazing. You know, maybe pick up a couple and try to age them for 100 years or so. You know, I gotta go bust some dog butt now. So we got a lot going on in the Quinn household tonight, but one thing's for sure, we will not get scurvy today, and Chris will have a Woody
and Max is going to get beaten. So those 3 things are guaranteed in the Quinn household tonight. So with that,
Guaranteed. Okay.
let's say.
Well, guys, I'm making sure he's not like, what is he going?
It's a UPS man or something. He's on duty.
All right, guys, that said, we've got some really nice Arctic ale to drink.
Quite a bit of it, too.
Yeah, and hopefully you do too. Hopefully you have some of the 1875 version. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.